Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Taranjeet Singh, and now we are back with our third episode of The Big Brains, the conversation series wherein we talk and have a casual conversation with the people who are building great teams, have built great teams, and are leading the people and culture with big organizations and startups. So, for today, I have with me, I would quote my guru in organizational building, Mr. Jitender Panihar. And Mr. Panihar is currently leading the people operations, everything related to the human resources at Fitelo. And Fitelo is a Chandigarh-based fitness and health application. So, moving ahead, I would request and I would call upon Jitendra ji to tell us more about um, his journey of building organizations and what led uh, to that spark that he means he decided to become an HR professional finally.
Thank you, Taran, for inviting me. It's always pleasure to speak with budding entrepreneurs. Uh, so I think I'll try and share whatever little nuggets of wisdom I may say that I have gathered over the years. This is my experience of working for startups back in consulting and working with startups after taking a switch to the startup ecosystem. So I think I'll try and uh, share my perspective from multiple angles because I've been fortunate enough to be a consultant, to be an HR professional, to be a business owner as well, and then obviously an advisor to few startups that I engage with. So Fitelo right now, is a online weight management platform, and I started this journey with Fitelo last year. Which is precisely a year back. Joined them at a stage when the company was 100, trying to scale, having big ambitions, wanting to expand the horizon, and was looking forward to organization building, and that's where I came in. And I think if I look back, the last 1 year had been extremely, it's a transformative, not just for me but also for the organization as well. So I think organization building is nothing but combination of a few fundamentals or basics, as I say. And I am someone who believes a lot in change management. So I think organization building is all about change management.
Absolutely.
And even if it's an organization that you're trying to build, uh, you're trying to implement a change in your personal life, or you're trying to work on a project, which is a hobby project. I think fundamentals and basics of change management, remains constant. So
Absolutely.
for me, that's the way I look at org building. Org building is nothing but change management.
Fantastic.
So, so I think if I have to break this down in a few components, uh, obviously vision is an extremely important component of building. Now, you may call it vision, you may call it purpose, but I would shy away from calling it plan or a goal. So I think for me, it's all about having that vision and purpose, which sets the organization, at a path towards building. Second, very important component is leadership. Uh, and obviously, leadership will have multiple stages because while building an organization, you are also traversing through different stages. So you may call it management, you may call it leadership at different points of that journey. Third, I believe, is all about managing change. Uh, right? How do you transition from point A to point B? Fourth I believe, is communication. So I think if I have to look at breaking it down, these are the four simplest and the most basic thoughts that comes to my mind. While there is a lot others as well, but yeah, we can discuss more details around it.
Sure. So, talking about the leadership, means last time we had a discussion, I guess we met in Gurgaon. So,
Yeah, correct.
yeah, so means what led you to join Fitelo means such an early stage startup, mainly means with a person of your caliber and the experience that you held at that moment, means a company of just 100 people. And means I've met Sahil a couple of times in Chandigarh and have been following Mac as well. So,
Mhm.
was it the leadership, the founders, was it the idea, or was it the love for fitness as you're a cricket freak yourself as well? So, what
Mhm.
was it that led that to you that you'll leave or you'll switch out of more engage or leading the means people and culture global at the global level and suddenly moving out to a city in a tier two city like Chandigarh and leading and building the team from 100 to now leading a team of over 1,000 in just 1 year.
So I think that a very interesting question. I think it's a combination of multiple things. Uh, I'll start with personality. I think all these decisions that we take stem from what are you as an individual, right? I think I, as an individual or as a professional, have always been a build guy,
Right.
right? So I've always loved building, I've always loved creating, and I think I've always, taken great joy in creating and building for legacy. So I think if I have to look at my own career as well, what I did, at a B2C startup when I moved out of consulting to then moving on to Mo Engage for helping them grow into a formidable marketing automation platform across continents. I think it's a function of what are you as personality, and I think that's one of the very strong reason for me to look at building something. So yeah, I mean, it's more around my own personality, having that passion to build for legacy. I would say that's number one. Second, I would say uh, is when you are building, right? I mean, you are also conscious and cognizant of what are you building for,
Right.
right? So, having done a health and fitness, in my first startup, at HK, uh, I think personal alignment is also extremely important.
Absolutely.
And the purpose that we have at Fitelo, right? It's a very noble purpose, and this is a purpose which resonates very, very closely to me. So, the purpose of solving weight problem of the world is large enough problem, right? And there is so much available in the market. Sometimes there is too much of information, right? And there are products, there are services. But I think to be able to build an organization that solves fundamental issues of weight, which will ultimately result in someone looking good, someone feeling good, someone I would say experiencing good. I think the fundamental purpose behind transforming a life
Right.
is something which resonated pretty strongly with.
Uh,
So I think these are the two reasons for me. I looked at something which is very, very different. Now, while you may say that we were just about 100 people, but if I have to look back, when I came on board Mo Engage back in 2018 end, again it was very, very small. It was very small. the organization did not have that big a brand. But for the next 2.5 years, we were being able to build more engage in a brand. So I think the stories are not very different. The stories have all been very similar. I've joined organizations when they were very, very small, be it HK, be it Moengage, or be it Fitelo. But I think from there, right, how do you build a brand? How do you build organizations? How do you live that change and transform an organization is something that I've always enjoyed. So in the hindsight, I may say that, hey, when I moved out of HK, it was pretty big. Or when I moved out of Moengage, it was a big, obviously they were big organization, when we came out. But it's all about what you experience there as a journey. Because I think we've all heard about the saying that the journey is far more exciting than the destination.
Absolutely. So I guess we can term you as a godfather of organizational building for the Indian startups. You build the
No, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am a student, I'm a lifelong student, and I'm still learning.
Absolutely. So, Jitender ji, I guess I'll second you on a thought while you mentioned purpose is important or vision is important. So, many a
Mm.
startups, I'll have a different question related to this as well. So, many startups, while they start building their teams right from scratch, um, why the new age entrepreneurs they aren't able to means pitch it or why aren't the new employees why are they not able to absorb that purpose or the vision that the founders have? So is it something where the means the founders have done means aren't able to do it? Is it something related to the internal governments of the governance of the startup, or what has to be done? Because ultimately, what I believe or what I have observed since my 3.5 years of entrepreneurship experience is that we rarely talk about in organizational building. We rarely talk about purpose or the vision or the mission of the company. We value a lot at Invocon, but
Mm.
rarely it happens that outside investor pitching we talk about the vision of the company. So, how Fitelo has done that right, and what could the startups in the growth stage or in the early stage you feel that means they can get that right as well?
So I think it should not be a choice, by the way. I very strongly feel that uh, it should be your purpose to clarify the vision that you have.
Right.
So I think founders and leadership have a lot of responsibility, of speaking about that vision, reinforcing that vision, either to your investors or to your employees or to your customers. So I think many a times the reason why we don't see that enough is because people are not being able to put that in practice. So, I mean, I always believe that you always have a choice, either to choose or not to choose. So it totally depends, what kind of choice do you want to make. While we may say that investors do not focus on certain things and what matters to them is 10x growth, while that may be partly true as well, but I
Right.
guess when you're trying to build an organization, right, you have to have that clarity that do you only want to talk about 10x or do you also want to talk about 10x with a vision,
Exactly.
right? And these are not easy path to tread, uh, and that's how life is, right? Nothing comes easy, right? So I think it totally depends on uh, the clarity that I have to talk about that vision, to share that vision to the stakeholders that I have.
Fantastically put. So another question on that line. While in last 1.5 year, many startup, many big names, unicorns perhaps, they have been laying off. Over a lakh people working within the Indian startup ecosystem, they have laid off. And what did Fitelo did right that it means multiplied its team by 10x, while the others were laying off. Something opposite in a parallel universe, Fitelo was doing right.
So I think this is the DNA of the organization. So I think coming from a tier two city, right, the character of the organization is frugal. So I think in terms of cost, in terms of being efficient, in terms of being cognizant and conscious of certain things, that directly comes from thought process. So I think you always have different problems staring at you. Growth, but growth at what cost, right? Profitability, how much profits, margins, to what level.
Right.
So I think we have always been very clear that we want to grow, but also at the same time, not at the cost of profitability. We also had certain views in terms of how much to do at what level.
Right.
And another reason for us to be able to grow fast was, having the right set of people with us who have helped us grow at a fast pace, which overgrows your cost as well.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a combination of these two things, but I think the DNA or the character of the organization around frugality is something which is the answer, and then focus on profitability.
Fantastically put. So, just another question on my mind. The question is based on a LinkedIn post that I read this morning. And someone, I don't remember the author and the entire credit of the thoughts to the author, respective author, that the startups they're trying to pretend or portray that they are somehow means the environment that they're providing is somehow very close to the big corporates, means in terms of trust. And what the big
Okay.
corporates or the MNCs or the big organizations they are trying to do, they are trying to just to attract the Gen Z, the new age talent. They are trying to portray that the type of work environment that they provide is sort of a school or a cool startup sort of work culture that these organizations provide. So, the early stage startups or the entrepreneurs who are building teams or who have scale in mind. So, keeping these two things in mind, alongside that, how do we ensure that the trust as well as the work environment that we provide to the incoming employees, it's very uh, means it has a balance of both.
So I think no one should try and so so I think everyone should aspire and there should be ambitions, but I don't think there should be any pretense. I think a few days or a few weeks back, I also authored a post around culture, and I think in the context of this conversation, it's very similar to environment, right?
Right,
So I written a post wherein I've spoken about that culture or environment is not about having foosball tables in office. It's not about throwing free snacks. It's not about having free booze, right? And a lot of other things.
right,
Because I think fortunately or unfortunately, somewhere when uh, we have to define the environment, we tend to use these jargons or these words
right,
that hey, the environment is, I mean, you just mentioned, right, cool,
right.
right? I mean, the environment is very cool. So I'm not really very sure, what do we mean by that?
Absolutely,
So what has been happening is, and I think it's a function of talent war. It's a function of talent market economy.
absolutely.
Because if you look at the last 2.5 years, the tech market challenge was evident to all, right? And people tried anything and everything under the sky to acquire talent.
Absolutely.
So during that time, you start using tactics, maybe high-end super bikes, right? Or some of these aesthetics as well. So we started defining culture or environment in terms of giving them an aesthetic value.
Exactly.
But I don't think an environment or a culture is that. I think what we should do and what we do is, we are trying to be very authentic because talent is smart, right? I mean, you can provide these perks and benefits, but you can't hold someone in the organization because you provide these benefits or perks, or you pretend that you're a cool organization, right? It's a
Right.
temporary fix. An organization has to be more authentic. It has to be more real, and that's where it should reflect in your recruiting processes. When you're having conversations with people, are you setting those right expectations?
Exactly.
Are you calling a spade a spade, right? Are you showing them the life of an employee during interview stage, right? Do you assess them from the perspective of what will happen when they come inside the organization?
Right.
So you make them join in the organization, you conduct a training program for 2 weeks. Do you show them or do you give them the experience of what they will experience after 2 weeks? Or if you are forming a cocoon around them, right? And suddenly when the reality comes to them, right, it's heart shattering. And that's where you'll see iteration, and that's where you'll see broken hearts. You will see people going on social media and talking about things. So I
Absolutely.
think culture or an organization has to be very authentic, should present a real picture, should be completely honest with someone who's willing to bet their career in you. So you also have a moral responsibility of being super real uh, to them as well.
Absolutely. And you talked about attrition. So I was reading a book the other day, um, Shoe Dog, by the Film Nights, the founder of Nike. So it was mentioned just a three-line quote that if you want to be somewhere else, at a better place where you are currently, so you
Hmm.
have to run at as twice as fast as that. So Fitelo has been running at a 10x pace, means they have
Hmm.
multiplied their team's 10x while keeping the attrition low. But tech industry altogether, they have suffered massively, both in terms of productivity as well as in terms of value. So,
Yeah.
what's the secret sauce that Fitelo was able to do it? Still being headquartered in a tier two city, not being in Bangalore, Mumbai, or the likes of these metro cities, and you have been able to keep the overall attrition in check while ensuring that the employee satisfaction is at par with the large companies.
So I think I'll answer this question not from Fitero's perspective, but in general, based on my experience, what I've seen and what I've experienced or practiced. I think culture is super critical and important. This is one glue, that makes a talent stick. Because if you acquire, a high performer, from a fast growing organization, and if you're not able to provide opportunity, or you're not able to provide that environment wherein a high performing talent can survive or thrive, uh, I don't think we have done a good job. So culture is super critical because we are talking about this generation, and Generation Z is very different, right? I mean, they have very different priorities. They have very different thought process. They look at life very differently. And I think it's also, function of different generations having different priorities, and the reasons for them to look at a job is very different. So culture is super important because people are very smart now, and people are very clear about what they want.
Absolutely.
So I think culture is that one glue, that makes people stick. Second, I would say is opportunities, right? Because uh, this is not a generation wherein they are trying to learn only when they enter a job. They've already learned a lot before they
Right.
could even enter a job, right? So, people have been doing courses on AI, and I was amazed to hear, a few weeks back that now school students have started enrolling in courses on data science and AI, right? Which is never heard of. So I think people are acquiring new skills. People are acquiring, I would say, new competencies. So that means they are always looking to expand their horizon. They're always looking to add something to their skill.
Right.
So from that perspective, people would want to grow. They would want opportunities to grow in terms of their skill. They would want opportunities to grow in terms of promotions, in terms of handling bigger portfolios, vertical portfolios, horizontal portfolios. So people are now yearning for more. And if you are an organization who can give them more, right, that is something which will keep that high performing talent with you. So I think based on my experience, these are two things which are extremely important. While there are several other factors as well. For example, compensation has always been that factor, right? It will always stay in the top three.
Absolutely.
But I think it is also a function of industry. It is also a function of what kind of uh, job families are you talking about? Because if you have to look at manufacturing, then iteration is a different problem, right? The numbers that you will see and talk is very different than, let's say, you talking about a tech company based in Bangalore, right? So yeah, it's a function of some of these other parameters as well.
Fantastic. So another question that is regarding something you mentioned a couple of minutes back, organization and business. So, means business or the company set is something that takes care of the survival of the entire organization, while organization is means something that keeps the business or the company running. So, that being the first question. Second being means should we see it as two different entities working together, two different mechanisms working to build a one single entity? Or should we see it all together that that's a component of one another? Or second being means you have been a consultant and you consult the founders as well as the startups on a regular basis. So the new age startups or the aspiring entrepreneurs means while Mac and Sahil they had you on board. So did it become entirely? Did it become that the team building or the organizational structure is entirely upon the CHRO, or the founders have a role to play within the organizational building apart from building the business alongside?
Yep. So very good questions, Taran. I'll try and answer the first one. I don't see organization and business as two different entities, and I think we should not do that harm of assuming that these are different entities. These are very dependent on each other, integrated and intertwined, in a much complex system. That's the way I look at organization and business. While sometimes we may use it uh, depending on our definition, but I think organization and business cannot survive or cannot live with each other. These, I wouldn't still say that these are two coins, two sides of the same coin, but I would say that these are intertwined very closely with each other.
Right.
You can't build an organization if you don't build a good business, and obviously you can't build a great business if you have not taken care of building the right organization.
Absolutely.
So that's what I have to say on this. On the second question, I think while you may have an HR head or you may have CHROs, or let's say you may have CTOs and other CXOs, but But I think during organizational building, it is extremely important for founders and leaders uh, uh, to be aligned to that org building vision. So while we can still drive a lot of change, we can still drive organization design, hierarchy, leadership. But I think when you have to build an organization, you have to build an organization as a team, right? Because it's a lot about organization sponsorship that you see from the leaders.
Exactly.
You need to see that walk the talk from the leaders. Building an organization, is not a one man's job. Building an organization or building a team is a leader's job, right? So building the right size of the organization, building a right organization, uh, only comes when you have the right set of aligned leaders. While the CHRO, may have that vision and the direction, can be a trusted advisor to the leadership and to the founders, show them the right direction, the right path, right? But ultimately, a CHRO has to be that, I would say, that glue, which takes the entire organization forward. Being a good cop, bad cop, sometimes being the devil's advocate, right? But yeah, it has to be a shared vision, and it has to be a shared effort. While you can have one person driving the transformation and change, but that one person, being the CHRO, knows, how do you use your stakeholders, in the journey of an org building.
Fantastically answered, sir. Just last question I had been personally very curious about. You have worked with Deloitte and you have
Mhm.
worked as a management consultant with PwC as well. And then a sudden transition to this startup ecosystem and building the team right from scratch with Health Card, then switching on to building the people and culture at Mo Engage, and now to Fitelo. So how did that
Mhm.
transition happen? Means you have been building or you are leading, means being a management consultant at PwC and Deloitte, and now you are suddenly leading the people and culture and the HR overall ops with
Mhm.
health card.
So if I look back, I feel the transition has been very exciting. It has been very joyful. Uh, I mean, full of challenges. I wouldn't say that, I did not face any challenges or ups and downs. But I think I am someone, who enjoys life. And I think that's where, again, the component of personality comes into picture. I look at life, as a learning mechanism. In life, uh, you do things, you learn things, you go through things. How you manage life, be it from a personal angle, be it from a professional angle, right? That has always taught me, situation handling. But again, if I have to look at my transition, I believe consulting gave me that edge, uh, because we learn about problem solving, at an early age, and I believe whatever we do in business is all about problem solving.
Absolutely.
So why we may still be a critique or a competitor, which typically consultants are known for, but I think you have to be a problem solver for a business. So I think that problem solving always helped, while you are building organizations or you are building teams. Your personality and your passion uh, also helps you transition better. And third is your love for building. So I think, it is all a joyful ride. I've always enjoyed, every experience. I've always enjoyed, what I solved for. Also enjoyed, where I failed, because it always, taught me something. So yeah, as I say, It always, is about building, uh, while you are living that journey.
Absolutely, sir. So, just concluding the episode with a vote of thanks. Thanks a lot, Jitendra sir, for your time. And
Thank you.
it's a pleasure every time catching up with you, meeting you, and sharing thoughts and having your insights as well. And obviously, building an HR tech company, it becomes very, very important for us to have your guidance and to build around the ecosystem by taking insights from your own experiences and how well you have built the teams and how well you have managed the overall culture and the organizations as well.
Sure, thank you. Thanks a lot, Taran, and wish you all the very best in
Thank you.
your endeavors as well.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So this was the third episode of The Big Brains with Mr. Jitendra Panihar. He is the Chief Human Resource Officer of Fitelo, and we'll be back with another episode with another leader in the HR industry, leading and building the teams at scale. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.